Hey, have you ever looked back at the toys you or maybe your parents grew up with and just thought, how on earth did we survive? I mean, from red hot metal to weird chemicals, the playroom used to be a total minefield. Well, today, we're going to unpack the incredible story of how our toys, from being legitimately dangerous to some of the safest things you can buy. Let's dive in. So, this comment from someone remembering an old toy, I mean, it just says it all, right? I had this as a kid, burned the shit out of myself, learned a lot of valuable lessons. It's hilarious and a little bit shocking, but it perfectly captures that shared experience for so many of us, playing with toys that could, and yeah, often did, fight back. And that really brings us to the big question, how did we get from there to here? The journey from learning valuable lessons with first-degree burns to today's world of super strict mandatory safety testing, it's a wild story. It's all about citizen activism, government stepping in, and a total shift in how we even think about keeping kids safe. All right, let's kick things off in what you could call the golden age of dangerous toys, the 1960s. And to really get the vibe of the time, we only need to look at one super popular and, honestly, infamous toy from that era. Okay, so this is Mattel's Thingmaker. Maybe you know it as creepy crawlers. And the idea was, frankly, awesome for a kid. You'd pour this liquid goo called Plasti-Goop into these little metal molds, cook it on an open-face hot plate, and bam, you've got your own rubbery spiders and bugs. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, you asked. The metal molds and the heating plate itself could get up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that in perspective, that's literally hot enough to bake a cake. And this thing was a toy, marketed directly to kids, often playing by themselves. Burns weren't just like a possibility, they were practically part of the experience. But here's the kicker. Listen to the official response from Mattel back then. This is a real quote from a PR person in 1971. Sure, you can burn your hand on the Thingmaker. My little girl burned herself several times, never seriously. It's just incredible. That casual attitude. Yeah, kids get burned, but it's no big deal. It just shows you what a completely different world it was for consumer safety.
But here's the thing. The Thingmaker wasn't a one-off. Not even close. The 1960s were just filled with toys that had all sorts of bizarre and genuinely serious risks. It was this absolute flood of dangerous stuff that finally pushed parents and advocates to their breaking point, to finally say, okay, enough is enough.
And the scale of the problem was just staggering. We're talking about stuffed Easter ducklings that were literally contaminated with salmonella. Yup, necklaces for little kids made from beans so toxic that swallowing just one could kill you. And of course, the legendary lawn darts, basically throwing heavy metal spikes into the air in your backyard. Oh, and Zulu guns, these blow dart toys that kids quickly figure out they could modify to shoot actual needles. It was the Wild West. But this is where the story starts to change. People started fighting back. Parents, and especially moms, started getting organized. You had mom activism, with people picketing toy fairs and demanding change. And then you had lawyers like Edward M. Swartz, who became these champions for the cause, showing the whole country just how dangerous these toys really were. And you know what? All that public pressure, it actually worked. This was a huge shift in thinking. The whole idea that keeping kids safe was only the parents' job, that was over. People started expecting companies and the government to step up, and Washington was listening. Over the next few years, Congress basically built the entire foundation of modern toy safety as we know it. And the changes came fast. First, in 1966, you get the Child Protection Act. This let the government ban toys made of hazardous stuff, like those poison beans. But that didn't cover bad designs, like the Thingmaker's hot plate. So, in '69, they passed the Child Protection and Toy Safely Act to cover those design flaws too. Then, in 1972, came the big one, the creation of the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the CPSC. Finally, there was a group with real teeth to enforce all these new rules. These new laws gave the CPSC a really powerful tool, the power to declare something a banned hazardous substance. Now, that's a key legal term, and here's what it means. It means a product is so flat-out dangerous that just slapping a warning label on it isn't going to cut it. It's basically the regulatory nuclear option for a bad toy. So, how does a toy actually get banned? Well, first, the CPSC gets wind of a potential hazard, usually from injury reports. Then they investigate, they test the product, they look at the data. If they decide it presents an unreasonable risk of injury, they can issue a rule to ban it. And just like that, it's pulled from every store shelf in the country. And for a few decades, this system worked pretty well. But then we get to the 2000s, and a whole new crisis pops up. This time, it wasn't about hot plates or sharp edges you could see. It was about hidden dangers, nasty chemicals that would trigger the biggest safety overhaul in a generation. Yeah, 2007 became known as the year of the recall. It was a huge wake-up call. Suddenly, there was this massive wave of recalls, and it involved some of the biggest, most trusted toy brands out there. All at once, parents started to wonder if the system was really protecting their kids from these invisible threats. And the things they were finding were just shocking. Get this, they found asbestos, a known carcinogen, in the fingerprint powder of a kid's CSI toy kit. Asbestos. At the same time, millions of toys were getting recalled for having way too much lead in their paint, and people were getting really worried about chemicals called phthalates in plastics. So in response, the government got incredibly specific and really, really strict. For example, the legal limit for lead in the paint on any kid's product was set at just 0.06%. And that wasn't a guideline or a suggestion. It was a hard, science-based line in the sand. You just could not cross it. And this led to a massive philosophical shift. It was a total game changer. Instead of just reacting to injuries after kids got hurt, new laws required that every single children's toy had to be tested for safety by an independent, third-party lab before it could ever hit store shelves. We went from being reactive to being proactive. So, did it work? Oh yeah, the results were dramatic. In 2008, the year the new law passed, there were 172 toy recalls. Just 3 years later, in 2011, after the new testing rules were fully in effect, that number dropped all the way down to 34. The data doesn't lie. This mandatory testing had a massive positive impact. Okay, so that brings us pretty much to today. The new toys you see on store shelves are, without a doubt, safer than they have ever been. But what about all those old toys? The ones maybe still in our attics or the ones we see for sale online, these relics from a much riskier time. This really sums up the whole journey, right? Back then, you had no mandatory testing and a very real chance of things like lead paint, sharp points, and dangerous designs were common. Now, today, it's a completely different story. You've got mandatory third-party testing, super strict chemical limits, and toys have to pass what are called use and abuse tests to make sure they don't break into dangerous pieces. And if there is one thing to take away from all this, it's this. All those strict safety standards we've been talking about, they apply to new toys sold in the US. They do not apply to vintage items sold as collectibles on eBay or at a garage sale. That old toy might be awesome for nostalgia, but it comes with exactly none of the safety guarantees of a modern one. So the next time you're scrolling online and that perfect, beloved toy from your childhood pops up for sale, you just have to ask yourself, is it a collectible or is it a hazard? Is it something harmless to put on a shelf, or is it a relic from a time before we decided that a kid's safety was non-negotiable? It's a question that really connects our own memories to the much, much safer world that all those crazy, dangerous toys helped create.